Soft, melancholic piano music begins, overlaid with the faint sound of waves. Oh, darling, let me tell you. It is a cautionary tale, really. A shimmering mirage of disappointment draped in the sun-drenched deceit of Mallorca. You see, I am a bit of a connoisseur, a seeker of experiences. My grandmother, may her memory be a fragrant bloom in the cold earth, always said a life without beauty is scarcely a life at all. And I believe her. That's why I booked Hotel Caballero, or as I've come to bitterly term it, the Caballero of Calamity. It began, of course, with the promise. The photographs, oh, the photographs, such artful compositions. Azure pools reflecting skies that seem to weep with joy, pristine white linens hinting at blissful slumber. I, with my frankly exquisite taste, anticipated a haven, a sanctuary, something more. But my dears, that's where the illusion fractured. It all unfolded in July of 2025, a date I shall forever mark in the annals of my personal misfortunes. I arrived brimming with optimism and was immediately assaulted by the proximity to the airport. Can you even imagine? A constant, throbbing drone of metallic birds shattering the serenity. It wasn't merely noise, you understand. It was a physical assault. The vibrations rattled your teeth, your very bones. It's like trying to compose a sonnet during a demolition derby. Utterly barbaric, the audacity of placing a supposed resort so close to such a source of relentless chaos. Honestly, it's a fundamental flaw in urban planning, isn't it? It's a disregard for basic human dignity. It felt like a deliberate attempt to deprive me of peace, truly the sheer inconsideration. And then the room. Oh, the room. It wasn't a room, it was a relic, a faded echo of a time when aesthetics clearly held no sway. It resembled a Soviet-era apartment, all drab angles and oppressive functionality. Think concrete, think beige, think the utter absence of joy. The bedclothes, darling, the bedclothes. Stiff, scratchy, and bearing the faint, lingering scent of other people's dreams, perhaps, or more likely neglect. The sheer thought makes my skin crawl. It's not about snobbery, you see. It's about basic hygiene. It's about respecting the person who will rest their head upon those pillows. It's about acknowledging their inherent worth. Is that too much to ask? And then the creeping horrors. Ants, tiny, black, relentless ants marching across the bathroom counter as if staging a miniature invasion. Hairs not my own, clinging to the furniture like unwelcome guests. Fingerprints smudging the surfaces, bearing witness to countless hands, and who knows what else. It was visceral. It felt as though I had inadvertently stumbled into someone else's carelessly abandoned life. It's not just about cleanliness, my dear. It's about the implicit message it sends. It screams, we don't care enough to maintain basic standards. The renovations, or rather the lack thereof, were equally appalling. The rooms were tired, worn, desperately yearning for a fresh coat of paint and a generous dose of modern sensibility. It felt like stepping back in time, but not in a charming, nostalgic way, more in a depressing, neglected way. It's like finding a forgotten photograph of your grandmother when she was young, poignant, yes, but ultimately a reminder of the inevitable passage of time and the encroaching weight of decay. It truly breaks your heart. The food was tolerable at best, a bland, uninspired buffet offering a meager selection of dishes that tasted suspiciously of nothing. Desserts, oh, don't even get me started. They were an insult to the very concept of sweetness. Pale, flavourless, and utterly devoid of inspiration. It's not about wanting caviar and champagne, you understand. It's about wanting food that tastes like food. Food that nourishes the soul as well as the body. Food that reflects...
So I'm looking into these super annoying crimes near Hotel Caballero, Mallorca. You know. Like tourists going there for a nice vacation. And then they get scammed. It's so sad. So first off, there's this thing with pickpocketing gangs, targeting supermarkets and store car parks. I mean, hotels in this area are like really nice, but you can't even trust the people around you, right? These gangs, they're so sneaky. They distracted people with questions or asking for the time, and then they steal their stuff. Like, one victim said her partner got distracted by some boys asking for the time. And then she realized they were trying to get her to reveal her phone or wallet. I'm like, how could you, you know? That's That's so wrong. My guess is the victim was probably super frustrated and worried after that. I mean, who wouldn't be? They're on vacation, and then suddenly someone steals their stuff. It's like, what's the point of even going on vacation if you're just going to get scammed? Anyway, the police are trying to catch these gangs, but it's hard because they change their clothes quickly to avoid being identified. Like, come on, can't they just be honest for once? Then there's this thing with street hawkers selling fake and overpriced goods. Like, businesses near Hotel Caballero, Mallorca are like super aggressive, you know. They'll sell you anything just to make a profit. These street sellers, they'll approach you near busy retail streets and markets, selling fake designer items and souvenirs. I'm like, how can they even do that? Don't they have any morals? The police are trying to crack down on them, but it's still happening. My guess is the tourists only realize they've been ripped off after they leave. And then they're like, oh no, I just wasted my money. And then there's this one pickpocketing incident at a supermarket in Alcudia. Like, this tourist was just browsing, and then someone bumped into her, and her wallet was gone. I mean, it's like, how can you do that to someone? The victim said they were left wondering how it even happened. And I'm like, yeah, it's super confusing. My guess is the culprits already had a plan, and they were working together. They distracted the victim with questions, and then they stole her wallet. It's like, why can't people just be honest? And finally, there's this thing with a group using distraction techniques at storefronts, like businesses near Hotel Caballero, Mallorca are like super sketchy, you know. This group of boys approached tourists in front of a shop, asking for the time, and then they tried to steal their phones or purses. I'm like, how could you, you know? That's so wrong. My guess is the victims were probably super scared and worried after that. I mean, who wouldn't be? They're on vacation, and then suddenly someone tries to steal their stuff.
Okay, here is let's talk about what awaits you beyond the walls of Hotel Caballero. Because frankly, the businesses clustered around this area, they're a bit of a letdown. A real sobering experience. It feels like a promise of a vibrant vacation slowly deflating, a bit like a punctured beach float. I've meticulously examined the feedback, and unfortunately, a rather consistent picture emerges: a landscape of unmet expectations, questionable service, and a pervasive feeling of being taken advantage of. It's not malicious, not entirely, but it is a little demoralizing. I find myself disappointed, almost personally offended, by the sheer volume of avoidable frustrations reported. Let's break it down, because a general warning simply isn't enough. You deserve a detailed, if somewhat disheartening, forecast. First, let's consider the restaurants. Establishments here as a whole appear to operate on a principle of good looks, bad delivery. They're masters of creating a pleasant aesthetic, a charming ambience, which then serves to distract from surprisingly subpar food and remarkably inconsistent service. It's a tactic, isn't it? A sleight of hand to momentarily blind you to what's truly lacking. Take, for instance, El Patio. The reviews paint a picture of a place where simply existing as a customer is considered an imposition. Multiple guests recount being deliberately ignored by waitstaff, forced to beg for attention, and then moved. Yes, moved. After being seated, sometimes after ordering drinks, you might be asked to relocate to accommodate a reservation. How uncouth. Beyond that, reports suggest a concerning lack of quality control. Paella, a Spanish staple, is frequently described as salty, overcooked, and made with suspiciously frozen seafood. One review detailed a blatant attempt to overcharge for barbecue sauce, a €3 transaction that sparked a minor battle of wills. And then there's the unsettling suggestion of food poisoning. It suggests a kitchen where corners are cut, and standards are flexible at best. It gives me chills, truly. The consistency of these reports implies that this isn't a string of isolated incidents, but a systemic failure to prioritize customer satisfaction. It's like they're operating under the assumption that tourists won't return. And perhaps they're right. Moving on, we encounter retail experiences, and that brings us to Fan Mallorca shopping. Initially, it might seem like a convenient option, a modern shopping centre, but this convenience comes at a cost, a significant cost. The consistent theme here is decay, a palpable sense of neglect. The bathrooms, repeatedly described as disgusting, filthy and reeking, are a recurring nightmare. Beyond the hygiene concerns, there's a haunting report of a child being injured by a splinter in the playground. A playground. A place meant for joy and carefree play, rendered hazardous by a lack of basic maintenance. It's a grim detail, absolutely heartbreaking. There's even a story of a pet shop with a dying rabbit being callously mistreated. It's unsettling, and it reveals a deep indifference to the well-being of its patrons, and, frankly, animals. The entire place feels like it's clinging to past glories, desperately resisting the inevitable march of time. I imagine walking through those halls is like wandering through a forgotten dream. Then comes the temptation of relaxation, represented by Hammam al-Andalus. Oh, the promises of tranquil steam rooms and rejuvenating massages, but the reality seems far removed from this idyllic vision. The booking system, according to numerous reviews, is a Byzantine nightmare, riddled with